say hello to everybody. Welcome to Fridays at 5. I'm Karen Taylor of the Color Vowel Chart, here with many of my Color Vowel colleagues. In fact, all of you are the community. Every Friday we get together for Fridays at 5. This is a special Friday at 5, which is the fourth Friday. On fourth Fridays, we have Dr. Robin Barr in the room. Robin, raise your hand. And Robin answers questions as they arise. So as questions bubble up, write them in the chat, and we will do our best to moderate and take a look at those questions and get them to Robin. What else can I say there? Today she has a treat for you, so that's going to be fun in a minute. And we'll save some announcements for the middle and the end. So we're going to get started with a chant, though, just because those are fun.
Can I do the chant, or are you going to do the chant?
Oh, you can do the chant if you'd like.
Okay, are you ready? Unmute yourselves.
Oh, you really want that kind of?
Oh, yeah. No, everybody's going to do it.
All right.
All right.
Asking for trouble.
Let's see. So, give me an F.
F. Give me an F. Are we supposed to repeat?
No, just you know, you not know this chant? This is what you yell at football games.
She's our cheerleader.
It's a cheerleading chant.
American football.
Okay.
So give me an F, and then you answer F because you're giving me an F.
Oh, we don't repeat.
Okay.
Say what the word is. You don't know this chant?
Oh, you know, not really, but I'll follow now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't give the context correctly.
All right.
Didn't realize I had to. Okay, so give me an F.
F.
Give me a R.
R.
Give me a I.
I.
Give me a D.
D.
Give me an A.
A.
Give me an Y.
Y.
What does it spell?
Friday.
Hey.
Okay, my question to you now is, what was weird about the way I did that chant? Did anybody notice anything peculiar? Besides Karen and Jennifer, who do know the secret. So I said, give me an F. Give me an R.
Say that again. You said.
Give me an F. Give me a R.
Yeah,
What's
that's
weird
exactly.
about
An R.
Okay.
Give me a I. Was that?
And then I shuddered very, quietly, but
Yeah. Give me a D. Give me an A. Give me an Y. What was weird about the way you did that?
Reacted. As my
Yeah.
daughter says, I was triggered when you said, give me NY.
Yeah. So what did you notice?
New York.
So what's peculiar about that? How would you say it? Give me a what? How would you do it? Aha! Yeah, Gene, I saw you cringing when we were doing it. I figured that was what you were thinking. So give me
An.
And, yeah.
So it's interesting that it would be give me an F. You would think that it would be AF, but it's an F, but I.
Give me an
So
F.
because
In fact,
in
let's go
words that begin with
consonants and
words
vowels.
that
So what's the rule for A and N that you were taught in school? Do you remember?
for a word that begins with a vowel, you use an.
The vowel you use
Word
N,
that-
and a word that begins with a consonant you use
Use A.
A, right? Jennifer has a nice chart that she's going to help us set up. We're gonna sort the letters and decide how you would say it, but you have to do it aloud in the context of give me a, or give me an. So the first one, is it give me an A or give me a?
It's an.
An A.
Very good, Aviva. That's right.
Oh,
Is there
cool, Jennifer, this is really cool. Drag and drop. I didn't know you could do that. Okay. How about B?
A. Give me a B. A.
Give me a B. Give me a B. Okay. Yeah, say the whole phrase, because remember we do things in chunks.
A
All right,
C.
next one.
Yes, C.
Oh, Robin and Floyd says, I was teaching this yesterday. I love this board. This is great, isn't it? Give me a C. D.
D.
Give me a D.
Hey, give me a D.
Give me a D.
Okay.
E. An E. Give me an E.
Well, when you say it an E, I'm not sure that's how I would say it.
Give me an E.
Say the
Give me
whole
a
phrase.
E. Give me an E.
Give me a
An
E.
E.
Give me
How would you say the whole phrase?
Give me an E.
Give me
Give
Give
me
me
an
a
E.
Nisa.
Yeah, there you go. Give me an E. Okay.
One
I'll-
and two,
I'll-
and then I'd ask for numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
But no,
But the problem is you have to say the whole. You have to say the whole. You have to say the whole phrase in order to get what I'm driving at here. Because if you just say E or F, you don't know how you actually say it in context or how an English speaker
Mhm.
would say it in context,
Yeah.
right? So you can't follow the rule. So for F, one is by
Give me-
an. How?
And
So who says one? And who says two? Raise your
I
fingers.
say
I
two.
get to see all of you.
What do you mean, one or two?
If I move this over.
Give me an F.
Two is
Yeah,
an
hold
F.
up, one or two.
Getting a-
One is A, two is an.
Give me an F.
One
So
letter.
yeah. So where does the F go?
Cool.
An F.
Okay, looks like we also have two. G.
A.
Give me a.
Give me a
Right.
J.
I have one finger. What else? Doug, I can't see which finger you're holding up. I hope it's your forefinger. Okay. All right. H. H. You have to say the whole phrase. Remember, give me.
Give me an H.
Give me an H.
Yeah. I.
Give me an I.
And I.
Yeah. J.
Give me a J.
J.
K.
Give me a K.
Give me a K.
L.
Give me an L.
Yeah. Give me an L. M.
Give me an M.
M.
and
N. Give me.
Give me an N.
N.
N. Give me an N. O.
Give me an
Give
O.
me an O.
P. Give me a.
Give me a P.
Give me a P. Q. Give me a.
Give me a Q.
R.
Give me an R.
Give me an R. S.
Give me an S.
Give me an S. T.
Give me a T.
T.
Yeah, T.
Now, U.
Give me a U.
Aha, I see some two fingers and I see some one fingers. This is interesting, isn't it? This is why you have to say it aloud.
Give me a
Give
U.
me
you.
a U, yeah.
Yeah.
One finger, yeah. V.
Give me a V.
W.
What's the rule?
I'm not
X.
looking at your fingers, so you need to say it out loud.
X.
Give me an X.
An X.
No, the X should be in the other column, shouldn't it?
Ah,
Give me
X should be moved over.
Sorry.
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Give me
You do
me
that
a
on purpose, don't you,
Y.
Jennifer? Give me a Y. Give me a Y. Give me a Y. Okay.
Why?
And give me a
Give me a
Z.
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 Jennifer, can you draw a couple more words for me?
Sure.
Put in university.
U. A-U.
Okay. So give me a university. Give me a university. Where's that go?
Give me a university.
Okay.
How about historic?
Well, I'll get to that in a minute, Shirley. But I would like, give me an hour.
Give me
Give me an hour. Give me an hour.
Hour.
H-O-U-R. Yeah, okay. Hour. Okay. Now let's try history. Give me a history. Give me a history. Give me an history. Give me a history.
Give me a
okay?
history.
And
Give me
And now I wasn't going to do this one, Shirley, but since you bring it up,
me a
it's an
history.
historic occasion. It's an historic occasion.
And historic.
Historic.
And
Historic.
historic.
It's an historic.
and historic.
Do you say an historic or an historic? Ah, that's
An
interesting.
historic.
Historic. I've seen them both. That's why
Well, and there's a reason for that.
I thought it was a mistake the
so-
first time I saw historic.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's put history and historic down there, and I'll talk about them in a minute.
Ah,
Occasion.
2 S's, 1 S.
One S. Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, I'm so glad
one
I'm not the
word I
only
can
one that
never
does that.
spell. I can't spell that word. Okay, how about that?
What is it? Oh, event. Okay.
I do that all the time.
So it's an event, a history. Okay. How about
So we're
what's another
saying
one I
that
like
could be
to
both?
use? Okay, that's a nice way of putting it. Okay. And history. Where do you put history?
A history.
A history.
Okay, number one.
Give me a history, yeah.
History
Give
of
me a history.
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 History of life.
And we can just go ahead and put, let's have one more combination. We'll do apple,
An apple.
An apple.
an apple.
An apple. Yeah.
Unit.
A unit.
A unit. A
A
unit.
unit.
Apple unit. And now a yellow apple.
A what?
A
Yellow.
yellow apple.
A yellow apple.
A yellow apple.
And also a 1, like if I wanted a 1,
Yeah,
a tile that said that
one.
a 1,
Yeah,
Or-
one is good.
a 1, a 2, a 3. A 1, a 2, a 3.
I say a 1 hour show. Good.
A 1
Yeah,
hour
so
show.
it's a 1 hour show. Yeah. Okay, I like that. Can you think of any other ones that are tricky that you'd like to add? Okay, so where did we put apple?
An apple.
An apple.
apple.
Okay. Where are we putting unit?
A unit.
A unit.
A
A
unit.
unit. So that's under A. Okay. Thank you. Where are we putting yellow apple? Give me
A yellow apple.
Yellow apple.
Give me a yellow apple, a yellow apple. Notice I'm saying a yellow apple, not a yellow apple, because it's important to realize that this is something that happens in fast speech. I mean, our natural tendency is in fast speech. It's a 1 hour show.
It's a 1 hour.
Oh, 1 hour show.
A 1 hour show.
Ah, okay, so that goes under A also. So what's the rule? I thought the rule was before a consonant you use a, and before a vowel you use an. But look, we've got the letters up there. We've got A for a bunch of consonants, but also for U. And we've got an for a bunch of vowels, but also F and H and R and X and stuff like that. We also have words that begin with H over under an, and we've got words that begin with vowels. Ah, it's a sound rule, not a spelling rule. Okay, so that's number one. So it's what it sounds like. And the next thing to check is what is the actual sound. So when I do this with my students, we have to make it not a grammar rule, but a pronunciation rule. And the second thing is they have to start becoming aware of their own pronunciation. So hour doesn't begin with an H. It's an hour. But if you have history, it does begin with an H. So you have to distinguish between words that are spelled with H in which the H is silent and they actually begin with a vowel versus words that are spelled with H where you pronounce the H. Doug Lott says.
Honest.
That's a question for later. Okay. So now we have names of letters don't always match the pronunciation of those letters. So we're good with B. C is fine unless you're trying to spell cat, in which case it comes out as sat. Honest is a nice one. Let's put it. It's an honest mistake. Yeah, an honest man. That's a good one. D, G, J, K, P, Q is weird because how do we pronounce Q usually? It's not kia,
Quick.
it's qua, right? But that doesn't affect the AN. How about Y? We know that, what are the vowels? A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Well, here Y is a consonant, but what sound does it begin with? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it begin with yeah? The letter
Why?
Y begins with
Oh, you're talking about
W.
Y. Well, with a
Isn't
W,
that weird?
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so isn't that peculiar? That really confuses my students.
I think that's
Wait a
really
minute. I didn't get that. Why yellow begins with a W, Sam?
The
what you said?
word, the name of the letter Y begins with the sound W.
Gotcha.
Isn't that peculiar?
Hmm.
And it's very confusing to my students. Now let's go over and look at the letters that take an. So we got the vowels an A, an E, an I, an O. That's expected. What about these other letters? An F?
Because these are all
Because
sounds of vowels.
they're the sounds of vowels. The first sound is a vowel sound. Trust your ears and not your eyes. Yeah, surely, F doesn't start with a consonant. Maybe some other languages might say fa instead of, but in English we say F, and the sound of the letter is at the end of the word, or at the end of the name, and not at the beginning of the name, which is peculiar. Yeah, F, yeah. And in fact, when my students are having trouble pronouncing the sound as in red dress or red pepper, I have them sing the alphabet, and sometimes they can say it as F and L, even if they're having trouble sounding it out as an otherwise. That's particularly important for my Thai students who have trouble saying L, it comes out as ow. But if I have them say the letter of the alphabet, L, then they can take that memorized sound and stick it where it needs to go. M and N begin with the sound R. What does the sound R begin with? Does the name R begin with? What color is that vowel?
Olive sock.
Olive sock R. Yeah. S. Yeah, red pepper again. And X is red again. Okay.
Red.
So now let's look at apple. Obviously that begins with an A, so easy. We say an apple. What about hour? It takes an hour.
Hour.
Oh, brown.
Brown cow hour. And what's the first sound of hour?
Olive.
It's an ah sound, hour.
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 Yeah. And what comes
Glottal
before the
stop.
vowel?
It's a glottal stop. Isn't it?
It can be a glottal stop. It can be a glottal stop. Say hour, if that's the first word in the sentence. If I say it takes an hour, do I say it takes an hour? It takes an hour.
No.
An hour.
Is there an H in there anywhere?
No, the H falls.
The H, yeah, there's no H in the word hour.
It's an hour. Yeah.
And
sounds.
there are some other words that don't have, that are spelled with H. What about hotel? What do you do with hotel?
That's H. A hotel.
So a hotel, but an hour. Okay. History.
We did history right here.
History.
Yeah.
It's a history. So why is it an historic event? You see it written as an historic event.
Because the H isn't pronounced.
Exactly. So surely this is the answer to your question. You said, well, the first time I saw it written down as an historic event, I thought that's not right. That must be a typo. But
No,
if
that's
you
the way
belong
I
to-
would say it. But I've seen it written a historic event. I would say an historic event.
exactly.
So
So
I
if
thought
you're
it was
if you're from a
mistake
dialect, yeah, if you're from a dialect where you don't drop the H, then saying an historic event just sounds ridiculous. It doesn't work at all. But if you drop the H, you can easily
historic.
say an historic event, an historic. But it only works. Well, what is the difference between the pronunciation of history and historic?
Stress.
Stress. So what happened? History has stress on the
Moved.
first syllable,
Yeah.
and we don't delete the H.
Right.
But when you say historic,
Stop.
if there's nothing before it, we might say historic. We don't just say historic. But if we're in connected speech,
And
then
historic.
something interesting happens here.
So it's incorrect to
historic.
say an historic?
Yeah, if you say it that way, and historic, then you can spell it that way. And historic. So traditionally, the first H can drop out in most dialects of English in fast speech. It's truly historic.
event.
It's truly historic. Yeah. So if
So
you're going
is that-
fast enough, and
Really historic.
So is
that
that
again,
pronounced?
Jennifer?
Are we saying that H?
Let's try it.
It's
It's
truly historic.
Right. I don't
It's
say
truly
Historic. I
historic.
might say the H here.
I think
It's really
because it's so
historic.
emphatic, I would say it's
Yeah, I think it's more in fact.
It is
It's truly
historic.
historic. So we're talking about really reduced syllables when we put it in an adjective and it's modifying the main word. An historic event, a historic event. I think you could say it either way, but if you're an H dropper, then this is one place you go. How about I'm going to an hotel? I've seen that written. I think that's because it's a French pronunciation. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can drop the H there. What about you?
No, I can't.
I'm going to an hotel.
Oh,
hotel.
No.
I think that in Britain,
I was going to say it's
Britain-
a little bit British, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes,
well,
it is.
but I'm going to say, but in Britain, it's a class thing as well. Okay.
Yeah. So generally, you have well, it used to be Cockney, but at least East End London would be H droppers. But that dialect spread the rule that was in fast speech already. So there would be upper class speakers who might say, let's go to an hotel. But the lower class speakers might say history, right? Or horse instead of history and horse. So they spread it to stress syllables as well. Nat has a really interesting point. What about the H of him? We don't say an him or a him and a her, but we do other things that show us that there's no H there. So if you say, Nat says, give it to him, give it to him, give it to him, give it, it's not, give it to him.
Unless you're stressing it, give it to him.
Yeah, give it to him, exactly. So if you're stressing it, the H pops up again, give it to him, but give it to him. Give it, it's no different from give it to her, give
That's
it to us.
acceptable speech?
Sure, absolutely. Give it to him. Give it to him. In fact,
Happy to me.
give it
I
to
don't think
him.
it's a question of acceptable as much as that's the way we really speak.
Well, that's the rule. That's the
Yeah,
fast
but
pronunciation
Is
rule in
that
English.
correct?
Is it got
It
to
is
do?
correct.
It is if you're going fast enough, right? So if you're speaking very slowly and emphatically, then the rule wouldn't apply. But if you're speaking quicker, then it would apply. So that's why an historic occasion, an historic event is perfectly acceptable in written English because that's an unstressed enough environment to drop the H. but other things like give it to him, I don't think you would write as without the H ordinarily. Although I've seen in written depiction of fast speech, an apostrophe used as like give him hell. And Jean says, yes, it could be give it to him, can be him or them. Yeah. So
Robin,
actually,
I always
I
used
need-
to, I used to like to use cartoons with students because cartoons are the one place where you'll actually see attempts to write spoken English.
yeah, yeah. So I dialect sometimes, but which is phonetic looking spellings of sounds. Lil Abner used to be real. That used to be really common in Lil Abner and Pogo. But sometimes it wasn't a depiction of dialect; it was a depiction of low literacy or bad spelling to show the social class of the speakers. But
Yeah.
you're right, Shirley, that it can also indicate the pronunciation.
Okay. I
So
like
yeah,
like the
Skip.
Calvin and Hobbes. It uses it a lot, and it's just like it's not low class or anything. It's just regular. And I think it depends on how they use it, the language, what they come up with. Some comics are better at writing those reductions, making
Yeah.
it understand.
But this is on I forget which listening test it is. It's one of the listening tests that's I think it's in targeting pronunciation, where the sentence that the students are supposed to perceive is something like give him a book, give him a book. And the prompt was something like either give M a book or possibly give him a book, but what the students almost invariably did, if they didn't know enough about fast speech, they would interpret give him a book as give me a book.
Okay.
Because they heard the M and they thought that was short for me. If they don't know the H dropping rule, they can't decode what's going on here. Nat asked, what's an effective method of ingraining the reductions into advanced speech apart from drilling one reduction at a time? Actually, I wouldn't drill one reduction at a time. I would use chunks, like give them a book.
Right, that's what I actually meant. I meant like you take one thing, like for example, instead of going. So what they do is like, this is for you, and we try to reduce it for you. This is for you. This is for them.
Yeah.
This is for him. This is for the boy. You know, I meant one thing, one preposition or
of the something like that.
Yeah. Weak form, like one weak form.
Yes, but doing it not consciously, at least not at first, maybe as a discovery activity, you could do it that way. But I would drill them on actual phrases first. What do you think, Karen? Chunks. You're gonna have to unmute yourself.
You know, I think part of it is we're getting stuck on the word drill, and to me, a really good drill is one that is a chant, because then it's
right. Yeah.
The drills are not sticky, and a well-placed drill becomes a chant, and that's because
I was also like with the following up on yours, the chant, that you can use this as like a spoken grammar too. You can use it as a pointing word, like give him a book, and you could put that into a chant, and it shows that, well, there's a lot of grammar in here as well, depending on how you use.
So you say give him a book. Give who a book? Give him a book. You mean
Got
like
it.
that, something like that. So yeah, I like that, because that way you at least unconsciously get both the deep structure and the surface structure. You get the underlying form him plus the phonetically reduced form in the same chant. Yeah, Karen.
Well, I'm going to say that we're about to switch channels. We're going to move into a second part of our day, but
wait a minute. I want to do of and Can we do of and as our next?
Actually, I think we have lots of questions in the room, and I would like to take a moment while we consider that. How about?
Oh yes, it is called Ask a Linguist after all. All right, go ahead.
So my segue is this. We've been looking at letters in the alphabet simply as exemplars of deciding whether they would be preceded by a or an. And this is just a taste, by the way, of what Dr. Barr is so good at with these kinds of discovery activities. And if this is intriguing to you, she will be teaching an elective an
Yes.
Notice the miscue there, by the way, right?
Yes.
Thinking in real time. And so I had A as a hesitation marker. And then once I realized I was about to say, what did I say?
Elective.
I had workshop in my head. And then I said an elective workshop. That will be in March, called Phonological Awareness. So if you have completed your level 1 basics course, and ideally if you've taken at least one of the core classes after that, phonological awareness is a great deep dive into greater phonological awareness, knowing
No,
exactly.
not that deep. We're still swimming on the surf. Well,
Well,
I could go deeper. You haven't seen me go deeper. Yeah.
It's okay. Well, she's gonna get a mouthful of water, so it's deeper than what we do in basics.
It's a
right?
shallow. It's a shallow dabble in the pool of phonology.
Well, in any case, I know we have people who are new here today, and so I want to do an additional new welcome to anyone who's never been here for Friday at 5. This is obviously informal. We come together, many teachers who already use the color vowel approach, some who are going to learn how to do it. Hopefully that's you if you're new. And so just know that this is very open and you can ask questions in the chat. Fridays at 5. This particular 4th Friday is a special session where you can bring especially linguistics questions, whether they're grammar related or phonology related, anything related. But to close out our little alphabet exercise, I would, I'm going to say something and we'll see if it's true or not, but I feel like we were using the letters as these exemplars, right? To figure out, is it A or an, and what's the rule, the deep rule. But in the real ESL classrooms, I noticed with the alphabet, it's that students struggle to name those letters. Haven't you had that happen, like G versus J?
G and J is particularly a problem because in different languages, the sounds are reversed. So in French, for example, G is the letter J and is J the letter G. I remember it's backwards. Is that right?
Right. Well, and then also the vowel letters, like in Spanish,
D, F,
I and
J.
Else. So I want to take a closure and kind of a break. We're going to sing the alphabet. You can join me live or you can mute yourself, but we're not going to say the names of the letters. We're going to sing them in color vowels.
Oh, that's hard.
You ready for this? So it sounds something like this. I'll do an example with happy birthday.
Can I use my cheat sheet?
Black, purple, blue, blue, right?
Yeah.
Black, green, purple, blue, black, green, purple. Okay, so you get the idea. Only this is with letters. So it sounds.
Oh, Jennifer, could you put up the letters again so we can remember what the letter order of the alphabet is?
I have something even more exciting for you, if you don't mind.
Oh, do you?
I do, and I'm going to share something with everyone as a little gift today, as a scaffold.
I remember Shirley did this a long time ago.
This is right here. Here's our little scaffold, and I'm going to put it over there in the chat as a gift today after we use it. So this is, wait for it. All right. So this is kind of handy.
Yeah.
A way to, let me make it a little smaller for you. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little handy. So we're going to just move right through these. They're already color coded. This is something that Shirley came up with years ago, and we've just tinkered with the graphic layout over the years. And so here it is in its latest form. If you're already level 1 trained, you have access to this in the digital library. But again, I'm going to give it to everyone at the end of today. So here we are. Ready? We're going to sing. But you're not saying the other names. We're saying gray,
green, 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 red, green, gray, white, gray, red, rose,
green.
We don't like it. But it's kind of fun. But what I want to get to is this. If we get to the tricky ones like G and J, what can you do with your student that's so quick and easy to just help them untangle those?
What I do with my students is I say, G is green and green begins with G. And that's easy. J is not as easy, but the G part is helpful.
Great. So anyway, kind of fun. And students often like just saying, wow, one's green and one's gray. If I think about the vowels, I can do this. So this is handy. Anybody want that? Should I put that in the chat, like I said? Okay.
Yes,
Great.
please.
All righty. So that was just our musical interlude. It sounded a little bit like caterwauling, so I stopped us.
Hey,
Karen, why don't
get-
you give an example of how it should sound? Can you
Oh.
do it?
All right. Gray, green, 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 red, green. Wait, green, red, green, gray, white, gray, gray, red, 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 oh, green. Rose green.
Red, rose, green.
Olive red, green, blue, green, mustard red, white and green. Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me? There we go.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great.
Oh,
Well,
give me a K. Give me an A. Give me an R. Give me an E. Give me an N. What does it spell?
Karen.
Yay.
black or red. Couple of announcements as you start thinking of your questions, because I know some have come with questions. And I know the first one, Robin, I'll give to you. Doug asked a little bit earlier about what that phenomenon is when you move somewhere and start sounding like the people around you. So I'm just giving.
Okay, I can talk about that.
But I
In a
do
minute.
briefly mention, if you loved Jennifer's mad skills on the iPad, give her a little indication right now, a little silent. Yeah, we're going to have a Friday at 5 on that strategy, right? We need that. So if you have an iPad and want to use yours the way she does, we'll be coming back with that. Watch. Also, there's so many things I could announce, but just one announcement. Well, it's 1.5. Watch for our newsletter, right? Because everything that's coming up in the next 2 months is going to be mentioned in this newsletter that's coming out in the next 2 days. Which then also means if you've never received our newsletter and you've been in touch with us, go check your spam. There's a really good chance that we're sitting over there by accident. And if you go check for our emails, mark them as not spam, and you'll start to see what we have in store for you. Okay. That's all I'm going to say right now. So Robin, what's that?
Okay. Okay. What? So, Doug, was it Doug's question? Was that you, Doug?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So you've experienced. You're in one part of the country and you move to a new part of the country, and you notice that you're changing your dialect to match the people around you. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, for me, actually, it changed as my dialect, and I don't know it till I get back home.
Okay. So you notice that you're kind of gradually sort of floating towards the local dialect, and then when you get back home, you sound different, or everybody says you're different, you sound different, or when you're talking on the phone to the people at home, they say, boy, you sound like a northerner, or whatever. And that's a wonderful example of code switching. Well, I should say first, bidialectalism. So one of the interesting things about the brain is that apparently you can pick up new dialects a lot later in life than you can pick up new languages. So there's a lot of evidence that if you're surrounded by a particular dialect that is different pronunciations of the same phonemes, of the same phonology, that tends to influence you more than if you're immersed in a place that has completely different sounds or different set of sounds or different rules for the sounds. But most of the places that speak English are close enough to your own dialect, probably, that you can feel yourself getting, you can feel I don't want to say distorted, but you can feel yourself adapting to what people are saying. It's a very, yeah, Jennifer says when she speaks with her British relatives, she winds up matching their voice. And then when you switch back and forth from dialect to dialect, that's what Robin Ann was saying about code switching. You're switching codes. So if you this is not just switching from language to language in bilingual situation or multilingual situation, which also happens, but you can also do it with different dialects of the same language, especially if you use a different dialect to speak to different audiences. So you might use a different dialect. You might have ethnic identity or geographic identity or some other kind of identifiable dialect that you will switch into depending on who your audience is. And what's neat about that is that your basic grammar rules pretty much stay the same. And you can tell if somebody's not a native speaker of that dialect because they don't always follow the same rules that a native speaker would. So for example, Jennifer, when you talk to your British relatives, you may still keep the American T flapping rule. I don't know if you do, but do you find yourself saying butter instead of butter? So you do undo that rule, but it's
And I think that's because when I was young, I spent all my time with my parents who still had very much their British accents. So I think that's
so maybe you're a native speaker of British English and you've added American
I
English
think I
as
am.
your new code. Yeah, okay. So, but I mean, that's something you might notice. So if you grew up in a dialect that didn't make say the distinction between Auburn and Olive, and then you move to a dialect that does make that distinction, you may not get it right for every word because that's something those are different phonemes in that language. So you may just be adapting some of the more important words. This is where saying aunt comes from. If every other time you have that sound, you say aunt, or saying God, if every other time you say God, or like Shirley, how, is that what you have observed?
Well, I just the story of my kids growing up. My husband is from Cincinnati and he uses aunt. And I'm from Michigan and I grew up saying aunt. And so my kids would call my sister Aunt Marty and his sister Aunt Verna.
Yeah, I've got a friend named Rachel, and she's in Boston, and so my daughter called her Aunt Rachel, but other her Chicago sister is Aunt Lori. But one of the interesting things that you're talking about with your husband, Shirley, is that African American English is often says aunt when they don't have any of the other rules of the they don't say gloss or poth or both or any of the other rules, but because aunt is a prestige form and so is God, that tends to be since those are names, they tend to be borrowed with this foreign phoneme in those words. So that's I'm going to stop talking about the history right now and go to the next question. But anyway, Doug, that's code switching, and
so it's interesting because I was wondering, if you're stuck with the sounds of your first language, and now you're just going to switch them, and you don't have to actually learn that. It actually just gets to you by osmosis if you're in that environment.
Well, that's why I was making a distinction between changing dialects and changing languages. So going from a dialect that doesn't have the Auburn, Olive categories. So suppose you only have Olive, and then you're moving to a dialect that does have Auburn. You might learn Auburn for certain words, like coffee, but you might overdo it for those words. I've noticed Karen trying to decide when to use Auburn, when she's attempting to do Auburn, right, Shirley? You've noticed that, and sometimes she gets it right, and sometimes she doesn't. And Shirley and I find it very funny, but it's the reason it's funny is that you're attempting to sound like somebody with our dialect, but you don't quite have it, right? And yet you have both of those sounds in your own dialect, but they're phonetically conditioned. So you say doll, but I forget what olive say, and you don't even realize. I mean, as I doll with an Auburn vowel and olive with an olive vowel.
So does it work the same way with stress? Because I've noticed some of my Spanish speaking students get English speaking stress in the right place, and they've never had a discussion about stress.
Well, it's better if it's unconscious, right? And I think stress is easier to pick up on because it's more melodic, right? It tends to be in the right side of the brain, but also Spanish does have phonemic stress. It's more predictable than English, but there is a difference, and it's marked on the words that are exceptions to the usual rule with a acute accent.
Yeah,
Like
I know they
Karen
use
said.
it. I know they use stress in their singing, in their songs. They'll stretch some vowel sounds in their songs all the time. So I know you're going to get to another question.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just mention that Spanish isn't as sensitive to stress placement, though. I mean, for example, Salvadoran Spanish places a lot of stresses in other places that say Mexican speakers of Spanish don't expect. So, I mean, I won't go into detail, but like we understand each other mostly.
Right. What's one of the differences between the two different dialects of Spanish is that, as Karen says, where the stress is less important. But in English, if you're stressing a different syllable, it's because we lengthen the stress syllable as well, so that because English is so stress timed that there's a bigger difference between words with different stresses than there might be in Spanish, where the syllables are still all the same length. I think, anyway, that's my explanation. I'm just making this up, but that's what I think.
You're not supposed to say that, Robin. That's not
Hey,
the
linguist.
my vast experience and theoretical knowledge allows me to draw a conclusion about the data that Karen has suggested. How's that? Is that better than I'm making this up?
Robin, can I share the story about my niece and her boyfriend?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So she started dating this guy whose name is Carl. And she said it was the hardest thing was like she would try to introduce him and she would say Carl, and all her British friends would say Carl, because of course they call him Carl. And so she finally just had to start calling him Carl, because just to make people not laugh at her. So
yeah, so
she's been living there for a number of years, and she's trying not to get a British accent, but she's just found there's certain things that if she keeps saying them with her American accent, it's always a topic of conversation.
Yeah.
And so kind of to get past that, she's picked up a lot of Britishisms.
And in order to pronounce the R, she probably had to make it 2 syllables, Carl. Yeah. I've noticed that when I listen to British, I think, okay, the Tolkien, when British speakers are talking about names in Tolkien and their R lists, they can't say Mordor. They don't say Mordor, which is what it would come out in British English. So the actors wind up saying Mordor. You know, they try to put the R's in, and it sounds very peculiar. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah.
That's like in The Walking Dead. The actor who played this one guy is British, and he, faked this, Southern Georgia accent, and his son was Carl, and that became the big joke for his Carl. So sorry.
Yeah. So if your dialect doesn't permit you to have R's in that position, it's going to be very difficult for you to put them in correctly.
Yeah.
And likewise, if your dialect doesn't have the British English switch before voiceless fricatives, so from path to path and grass to grass and so forth, you're going to get it wrong if you try to do it, move all your as into ah. You'll say cot instead of cat, and no, that doesn't work, right? Because you don't know what the rule is, and you haven't learned it. You haven't learned the British rule for it.
Yeah, that I just wanted to tag on at the end there. The kind of the cultural kind of connect. I used this. I watched this dialect from the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, one of those isolated.
Tangier Island, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting reading below the British comments. They're like, this sounds just like, I don't know where, Surrey or something. This sounds just like this person from here. And they're really trying to identify with this older variant of American English that,
so it's part of American English that hasn't kept up with either the American changes or the it's not London English, but it's not general British, but it's still got the R's that rural Britain has, for example, but it's got some vowels that haven't shifted all the way. So so further up on the further behind on the vowel shift, or further away from the vowel shift center.
Yeah, and it was interesting. People all over England were like commenting from different places saying, no, it sounds more like this. And no.
I mean, people say, oh, they speak Elizabethan English there. Well, no, they don't. They everybody speaks modern English but they diverged back in Elizabethan times. So they, while our dialects went off this way, they went off in this totally other direction. And because they're on an island, they didn't speak to anybody from the outside much. So they just had their own.
If you're interested, just kind of look for it, island in the Chesapeake. I forgot what it's called, Smith Island, I think.
Yeah, Smith Island, but also Tangier Island. Oh yeah, Karen, you wrote that down.
Smith, and it's I can't understand really like most of what they're talking about.
No.
Yeah.
You'd like to hear a little bit of that? Just to hear it?
Okay. Yeah, there it is, Tangier. You got to get the guys talking. They're talking quickly around a table, a bar or someplace inside.
Oh yeah.
A particular accent may be spoken by only a few hundred people. You can hear some of the most unusual varieties in remote mountain areas or on islands along the East Coast. The speech heard in some of these places may sound very old-fashioned to outsiders.
I am and you're Saturday night. I keep drove his bomb out. I had to get out home. His mom's been calling and cussing at me all day. She was behind the counter. She said, "It's a lie, Jack." I said, "Who's that, Mom?"
So just a taste.
Yeah.
So there you go. See, unshifted. So the O instead of ow. O. The very, very raised diphthongs.
Just to clarify for our international, visitors here, that was English.
Yeah.
But incomprehensible to me.
Incomprehensible to most of us.
Yeah. And the things that I could hear were like on the counter. I could hear the little snippets, those little chunks, and that's what I could understand. Otherwise, I don't know what they're talking about on the counter. No idea.
Can I share a little story about this code switching thing that caught me by surprise? This is dating myself. I moved to Germany just after the Berlin Wall, like weeks after the Berlin Wall came down. I was in the process of moving there. And like in February of 1990, a film crew from Charlotte, North Carolina came over, and everything was exciting. All the news people were in Germany, and through a friend of a friend, they got in touch with me to help them out, whatever. But they also had a local guide who was a filmmaker, and he was fluent in English, German, fluent in English. But when we were like going around different places, I started talking to these guys, the Charlotte, North Carolina crew, and this man who's fluent in English turned to me and he said, "Are you speaking English?" And I wasn't aware of what had happened. And I said, yes, and I'm sorry, we'll speak more clearly. But it was absolutely that I'm from the South, and I just fell right into it without any awareness that it had happened. There was a lesson that has stayed with me forever.
Absolutely. It was perfectly clear to you, but it was unclear to them because they hadn't been exposed to that dialect. And you can get mutual unintelligibility between dialects even in less isolated places. So for example, my husband, who is from New Jersey, could not understand my mother, who is from Chicago, for the first several years of our engagement. And that was a little awkward. But I mean, maybe there was more involved than just, well, never mind. But that's one reason that I really recommend exposing your students to lots and lots of different dialects of English, because the more exposure you have to the possible ranges of pronunciation that are allowable, the better able you will be to identify and to categorize the sounds that you hear, as well as the vowels that you pronounce. Because at least in American English, and I think in a lot of British English as well, the vowels are what change the most in going from dialect to dialect, more than the consonants. The consonants you'll get changing in fast speech, and then you have the R and the flapping T for a major dialect difference. But otherwise, it's the vowels that primarily distinguish accent.
You have you have the word root and route. That's very common. It's said both ways.
I say root, so I don't have a
There
problem.
you go. There's another one. Yeah.
So I have wooden hook root in my dialect. What about you, Shirley? You're close to my dialect. Do you have a wooden hook root?
No, I think I say root, but I think
And how about wooden hook roof?
Roof. Yeah, roof.
Yeah. So you might have learned blue moon root elsewhere.
You know, I don't even know what I would say if I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah. What I talk about is the roots of a tree, but a square root, because obviously I learned square root from somebody from a different dialect. So that's one of the things that gets you a dialect mixture. Yeah, Jennifer.
Dr. Barr, Aviva had a really great question. What is the difference between dialect and accent?
Mostly people talk about accent when they mean only the phonological parts of the dialect. So accent would be a subset of dialect. The accent is the pronunciation of a dialect, but dialect differences extend beyond accent to involve phonological rules, morphological rules, syntax. So for example, I'm from the Midwest and I can say, that's all the farther I can go. And that's perfect. That's perfectly standard. Because yet there are a lot of people who wouldn't understand me. What would you think that meant? That's all the farther I can go.
That's as far as you can go.
That's as far as I can go. So why don't I say that's as far as I can go? I don't know. I can say that too. But in my area, that's all the farther I can go would be fine in writing too. So it's not like it's either a disfavored form. It's as standard as anything else in my dialect, as a standard part of my dialect. It's just that there's no class difference. Everybody in my area would have that syntactic option.
Yeah, because I always understood dialect to include vocabulary. So
the dialect includes vocabulary too. So you could have the Coke, Pepsi, Pop, soda line, and if you're from the distribution area around Boston, that where Moxie is located, Moxie is a tonic. Notice I'm saying tonic and not tonic. I don't know if you can tell, it's Auburn Dog tonic. And everywhere geographically where the beverage Moxie was sold, they call all carbonated beverages tonic, because Moxie was originally sold as a nerve tonic, as a pepper up, right? So so you move to now Boston is more, people in Boston are more likely to say soda pop, but tonic is the original Boston, New England term for that item. Yeah, so Aviva, you're absolutely right. The vocabulary is a lot of it, and it has to do with what the local term is, or grinder versus stub, versus hoagie versus
frap,
cheesesteak.
milkshake, like Boston frap instead of milkshake.
Yeah. In Boston, a milkshake is just milk and syrup. There's no ice cream, at least originally. But frap is what they used to call when you add ice cream to it, because in the 19th century, the cold wind in New England, the northeastern wind, was called frappe, which means it hits you, and from the French. And so I was there when the Frappuccino was invented. In Harvard Square, there was a coffee shop called the Coffee Connection, where they would sell coffee beans, but you could also get things at the bar. And one of the things they had invented was a Frappuccino, which is a cappuccino frap, because frap is a word you would only get in the Boston area for a milkshake. And now everybody knows what a Frappuccino is because of Starbucks, because Starbucks bought the Coffee Connection. But in Rhode Island, I believe the older speakers still call a milkshake a cabinet, because the cabinet was where you kept the ice cream. So you would go to the soda fountain and say, I'd like a cabinet, please. Say, okay, we go to the cabinet and get, the freezer cabinet and get the ice cream out. So, so yes, dialect differences can extend beyond accent to grammar and vocabulary. And I'm going to stop talking so you can get to the next question. So Karen, tell me what to say next.
Oh, well, let's see. I'm taking a look out here. If you have questions, you're welcome to ask. I did have a question myself, again, about, I've been listening to a podcast called Jennifer Will Remember For Me, because apparently I just give my brain over to her. What was that one I was listening to this week? It's called,
I'm
well,
looking
while you're
for it.
thinking of it. But anyway, it's this guy who, he's a linguist, and he talks about compounding as backshifting. This is his whole, it's like a feature of each of his podcasts. So he'll have a moment in this long podcast. He mentions Hittite and he mentions all these ancient languages. He's really interesting.
Is this Jeffrey Nunberg?
I think so. If I remember the name of the, yeah, I'm new to it. But in any case, he talks about compounding. So the thing of, for example, post office, and it's not a post office, right?
Right.
Talks about this phenomenon as backshifting. And so first,
well, that's what the stress does anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So A, is that like a known linguistic term?
No, or at least, I think he may be using it in a way that I haven't encountered it before. Because for me, it's just the regular application of the initial stress rule of Old English and Modern English. I mean, nouns get initial stress, then that's how it works.
Okay, because we might have to save it. And those, by the way, for those who have a 6 o'clock, you have lives where you need to go off at 6 o'clock or whatever the hour is where you are. We're at the top of the hour, but I will ask the actual question I have. The example he gave is he played, I think, a clip from a movie or a radio show from the 1940s where the speaker said, oh, and he's a wonderful DJ. And now that acronym is a DJ. So that to me does not follow what you were describing about the Old English rules or what have you. I mean,
well, the problem with White House versus White House is not that you don't shift on DJ. It's that DJ wasn't yet a word, wasn't yet a single word, I would say, at that point. So I think there are other cases of compounds that used to feel to us like two different words that you would give equal stress to, and that have been univerbated. That's my term for it, is univerbation. I mean, you make two words into one word, one verb word, univerbation. You like that?
Interesting.
And then once it's a single word, then whap, you hit it on the first syllable. So that's how I would explain it. Let me write down that word. I love it.
Though, that I want to get at the soul of it. And so I'm going to push on, because I'm forming my own folk etymology maybe about this, but there's a thingness to it. This is what I often talk about this, right? So it's
a DJ is a thing.
It's thing.
It's not a kind of J.
Exactly. And so those of you who have been in basics with me in the past, say, I don't know, year or so, and if we've had time to get to compounding, we talk about how it's important for our learners to be aware of compounding, particularly, of compound stress, so that they can clue in to when there's a thing they need to know about, right? Like, for example, and I'll give my example. Now we're going to go really long. So my example is this. We had a teacher give a walkabout in his school in Virginia. So he's there with his camera and he gets to this hallway and he says this thing that I had never heard in my life. And it was this. He said, oh, and here, looking at a bulletin board, is the essay gallery. And I thought, that's a thing. And I knew
essay gallery, yeah.
An essay gallery.
It's not an essay gallery, it's an essay gallery.
It was an essay gallery. So I knew many things all at once based on my phonological awareness and my lexical knowledge, right? I knew, and teaching background, that it has essays, that it's a gallery, that I knew how this worked immediately, right? And I knew it was a thing that maybe exists at other schools all at one moment because he compounded it.
It's an essay gallery, yeah.
Yeah, and so
it doesn't have to be written as a single word or with a hyphen either to be a compound.
Yeah, it's completely irrelevant as to how it's written. What I know is that he's cluing me into a thing that other ESL professionals do in other places. And
what I want to know is at what point will color vowel become compounded?
Well, it has been. That's what's so interesting is some people already, Crystal Boys, one of our trainers, already compounds it, and now all of her clients.
Oh, tell me how she
So
says
do
it.
you, Karen. Karen, you compound it a lot. I really notice it. You say color vowel.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I still say color vowel.
Yeah, I say color vowel. It's the color vowel chart.
Yeah.
Vowel chart is maybe a compound. It's a vowel chart. And this is the color vowel chart, the color vowel. I teach with the color vowel chart. That's where my stress is. What about you all?
Now,
What do you stress in color vowel chart?
I'll add that Color Vowel is our brand, right?
Yeah.
And so now that's why is, you know, come learn with Color Vowel, because now we're
color vowel, mustard, a cup of mustard color vowel. Boy, that's yeah, I don't quite get that. I don't quite have that yet.
Well,
Interesting.
in any case, I'd like to leave.
But it's developing, isn't it? Yeah.
A couple things. We're losing Jennifer. This is a good sign that we should all go because Jennifer's leaving to make dinner, you know, and we love these sessions. Please know that they're available on our YouTube channel, which I will do my best to pull up right now and post for you. But also that we'll be posting this within the next day or so. We hope you'll join us, of course, for future Fridays at 5. Next week, we have Pure Practice coming up. So please visit our training page and sign up.
Thursday. Thursday. What we have? A purple shirt something Thursday.
It's purple shirt, first and third Thursdays for
first and third Thursday, right? See,
So
that's how I remember it. Yeah.
10 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. So I just put up the link in our chat to all of our upcoming events that you can sign up for. Other upcoming events are in our calendar for the whole year. So just because you don't see them in our signups doesn't mean they're not there. That link is also up in your chat. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but we want to see you as often as you want to be with us. And so there's that link to that file, and you can download that or just mark it, the Google Doc that I've given you access to here. Okay.
And we do update that from time to time. So
thank you, Jennifer.
You might need to go back and look at it from time to time.
Yeah, it's living on our website. Thank you so much. Great to see you, Robin.
Thank you.
Others, everyone. New people, welcome. Come again, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Liza. I'll see you tomorrow.
Friday. Great. Okay. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you, Robin. Much appreciated.
That was fun.
It was fun.
It's hard to shut me up.
When Jennifer goes, that's when I go. That's my cue.
Lucy sends her regrets. She was going to come today. My daughter Lucy. She was going to come today, but she had her